The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Hello everyone, No One of Consequence here, back again with a new video. This is episode 27 in a series which recounts my ongoing Dungeons & Dragons campaign, which is now in its 9th year. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button. So as always, spoiler alert, there is going to be a lot of details about this adventure module that'll be revealed in this video. Just to expand on that, this module was published in 1985, and since then, just reams of information has been written about it since then. So what follows in this video is how I ran my own campaign. Much of it is borrowed from other sources. Some of it I came up with myself. But either way, this video is not going to make a lot of sense unless you've run this module yourself, or if you at least have a copy that you can refer to. So that my main goal in approaching this module is I tried to simplify it as much as possible, because my experience in the past is most players really don't care about a lot of the subtle details that are found in this module. So again, that's why I tried to simplify it. But even so, there's still a lot to unpack here. So let's get started. So the major change that I made to this adventure module is that I removed the fungus demon Zuktmoy and replaced her with the demoness Sloth. And so why did I do that? Well, the reason is because this right here, and I showed this slide in a very early video in this series, but I'm just showing it again here to refresh memory. As it turns out, Gary Gygax himself had originally intended for Loth to be in this module. And so the fungus demon Zuktmoy was a kind of an afterthought. And so by putting Loth back in here, I was trying to return to the original intent, Gygax's original intent. And this is a screenshot that I showed in a previous episode that shows my own players at the moment that they released Loth from her imprisonment in the temple, and she was free to leave this place and return back to the Abyss. So since I put Loth in here, then I have to explain how did she get here in the first place. Well, the background that I came up with is that the Dro Eclavdra, who was the leader of House Alserv, rebelled against Loth and began worshipping her ancient enemy, the Elder Elemental God. And the reason for that is she wanted to convert all of the Dro from Loth to the Elder Elemental God, and then she could become their absolute ruler. So Eclavdra, first she decided to establish a presence on the surface world to gain more power, and then after that she would move against her enemies in the Dro homeland, and so this led to the creation of the Temple of Elemental Evil. And then Eclavdra also formed an alliance with the demon lord Iuz, who already had a kingdom on the surface world in Greyhawk. And she calculated that, he already had a presence and experience, so it would be useful to her to form an alliance with Iuz. So Loth saw all of this going on and correctly concluded that it was a serious threat to her rule over the Dro. So she left the Abyss and went to the Temple of Elemental Evil herself to confront Eclavdra directly. However, when Loth got there, Eclavdra was not present, and the reason for that will come out later in this series. But bottom line is, Eclavdra was not there, so Loth didn't want to risk offending Ayuz by attacking his worshippers who were there, so she decided to wait in disguise for Eclavdra to return. Well, her presence on Earth in the world of Greyhawk did not go unnoticed by the high priests of Veluna and Furiondi. They soon became aware that Loth was on the prime material plane, and they mistakenly believed that she was at the temple to lead its forces in a war against them. So the temple was attacked first by the forces of good, and this culminated in the Battle of Emerald Meadows, which is talked about in the module. And the result was that the temple was overthrown and Loth herself was imprisoned in the dungeons. So another big change that I made to this module was that I removed the elemental nodes, which come late in the adventure. And the reason I did that, I've run this module several times, including just a couple of years after it came out back in the late 80s. And my previous experience from running this module is that by the time that the players would get to the point where they would go to the elemental nodes, they're starting to suffer from adventure fatigue, as I call it, and it's they've already been doing a lot, and now they've got to go through these 4 elemental nodes, and it's just a slog. So I decided to get rid of the nodes, but the original point of the elemental nodes was so that the characters could obtain the elemental gems. So if I'm going to get rid of the nodes, then I have to come up with another way for the characters to get the elemental gems. And so what I did was, instead of having to go to the elemental nodes, the characters could obtain the elemental gems by destroying the main worship altars in each of the elemental factions on levels 1 and 2. And I talked about that in a previous video as well. So another problem that I had with this module is that down on level 3 in the sealed off area, where in this case I have Loth imprisoned, as written, it's going to be very difficult for the characters to access that area where Loth is imprisoned. And again, you refer to the module and it describes all the details behind that. And so that was a problem, but I wanted the characters to be able to get to this point. So what I did was I created an alternate way to get to this area, and I have an arrow there pointing to the location, and really all it is a doorway in a sealed doorway in area 322 on the north wall there where the arrow is. And if you can open the doorway, it just connects to a passage that leads to area 339. The only problem is that the characters first have to possess all 4 of the elemental gems in order to open that doorway. There's little shaped sockets in the wall, and if you insert all 4 of the elemental gems, then it opens the doorway, and then the characters can access area 339. So that's what I did when I ran this module for my players. So another problem that I had with this module as written is finding Prince Thrommel. And Prince Thrommel, finding and rescuing Prince Thrommel is an important part of the long-term plot in this campaign. And the problem is, as written, it would be very difficult for the characters to find him. And I had read somewhere, I don't remember where I got it from, somewhere in all of my readings, I saw the advice that basically said, if there's a major plot device in your campaign, don't hide it behind a secret door, because there's a good chance the players won't find it, and then you'll have to come up with some other way for them to get that. So, but that's the case here. So what I did was, you can see the secret door pointed out on this screen. And what I did was I replaced that secret door with a standard door that the characters would clearly see when they pass through here, but it's heavily barred, and there's would be silver hammered into the door frame. And the whole point is for the characters to have the understanding that there's something important located behind this door. So that's what I did in this case. And then when the characters get into area 333, as noted on the map, I did keep in place the second secret door, which leads to area 334. Because I didn't want to just hand them everything on a silver platter. I wanted them to do a little work. But just based on the shape of the room in 333, it should be pretty clear to the players that there's something going on here. And in fact, when my players went through this module, they quickly realized that there was a secret door hidden behind the altar. And you can see that in the screenshot there. So moving on to the room where Prince Thrommel is actually located, as written, if I remember correctly, the sarcophagus that holds Prince Thrommel is invisible. But I got rid of that, but I kept the illusion of a vampire in the sarcophagus. And again, this is a screenshot that appeared in a previous video, but here it is again. So I kept that part. However, the module talks about how the characters need, quote, powerful magics in order to detect the illusion, the vampire illusion. And the problem I have with that is the module describes some, quote, powerful magics that the characters can use, but at no point in the module up to this point do the characters have the chance to acquire any of these powerful magics. So it's not really fair, because as written, this module assumes that the characters start off as brand new first level characters and move forward and eventually get here. So what I decided was there's no need for these powerful magics to detect the illusion of the vampire, and instead, the typical vampire tropes apply, and all the characters have to do, in this, as you can see in the text there, if they check the corpse of the vampire does not radiate evil. If they think to use a mirror, then they would see there's a reflection in the mirror. If they were to pour holy water on the body or touch a holy symbol to it, it doesn't have any ill effects. So all of these are just very simple ways that the characters could determine that something's not quite right here. And as I had it, all the characters have to do, there's it's not shown here, but there's a wooden stake driven in the chest of the vampire. And all they have to do is pull the wooden stake out, and then the illusion of the vampire disappears, and in its place, they see Prince Thrommel. And that's exactly how it worked out when I ran this. So, some other things in this module I didn't really like. On the map here on dungeon level 2, room 207, the so-called pearlescent room, pointed out there on the illustration. So if you read the description for that encounter, in my opinion, no player worth their salt is gonna fall for the premise behind this encounter. It's just too outlandish, and in my experience, like I say, is from running this before, nobody's gonna fall for it. It's kind of pointless. So what I did was I did keep the werewolves in room 208, and the module describes that they are aligned with the fire temple, which is located to the south of here. And the reason these werewolves are here and not with everyone else is the servants of the fire temple were not real keen on the idea of having a couple of werewolves living amongst them. So even though they're glad to have them as allies, they really didn't want them, hanging around. So that's why the werewolves are up here in room 208. And instead of the module as written, what I did was I just made room 207 an empty room. And but the werewolves are still able to spy into it from their location in 208. And what could potentially happen is the characters might think that this is a safe room, kind of out of the way to rest. And if they did so, then the werewolves could sneak in here when most of them are asleep and hopefully catch them off guard. But even if that doesn't happen and the characters move on, then what I had decided would happen is, and what happened in my game is, one of the werewolves will change to wolf form and silently stalk the characters to see where they go, and the other werewolf will go into the fire temple area to warn them that there are intruders in the area. So another room encounter that I did not like in this module is room 310, the so-called sunlit room. And if you read the description for this encounter, in my opinion, this encounter is even more unbelievable than the werewolf room we just talked about. And it's just a waste of time. It's a very complicated encounter. There's a lot going on. Again, in my opinion, no players worth their salt are going to fall for this encounter. So I just threw the whole thing out. And instead, I changed this room to be a prisoner holding area, with cells around the perimeter of the room, and also a torture chamber, various implements of torture in the main room. And this was all overseen by the temple leaders. And if it turned out at any point in the adventure that any of the characters or the major NPCs who might be along with the characters were to get captured, then they would eventually end up here for torture and questioning by the temple leaders. And were that to happen, then that could make for a fun and challenging rescue mission for the characters to undertake. Another thing to talk about, this room here, room 338, there's a lot in that area, but the most important of which is the Orb of Golden Death, as it's called. And when it's combined with the elemental gems, which a character should also have by now, then the entire thing becomes a very powerful artifact of evil. But just like I talked about before with Prince Thrommel, here you've got a major plot device, but it's hidden behind 3 secret doors, which almost guarantees that the characters are never going to find it. So what I did was I decided to make this a floating item, and I would just drop it at the time that I thought was good, so that the characters would discover it. And in my case, I ended up putting it here in the area 353B, because the characters were in this area, and it's a heavily trapped location that has other valuable magic items, and so it kind of made sense that something like this Orb of Golden Death would be here. And it also ties in, the module talks about that this item was created by Ayuz, but he doesn't know where it is. And so it helps make sense to justify that by putting it in this location. So another change that I made in this area are these elemental portals in room 339. And the module as written says that if characters step into these portals, then they would be transported to the elemental nodes. And I already said I got rid of the elemental nodes, so that was not a danger to the characters if they were to get in these portals. And in fact, I had made these portals inactive, and they were there, but they were not working. And the reason that I came up with was because, ceremonies, worship ceremonies that had been long forgotten had to be conducted in order to activate these portals. So if the portals don't go to the elemental nodes, then where do they go? Well, I decided that they go here, and down on the 4th level to the corresponding elemental nodes located on the west side of this level. And how it worked was, back in when the temple was in full operation, the sacrifices that were made in room 339 were transported to these locations rather than the elemental node. And once that happened, then the high level priests who were located down here on the 4th level would then take those sacrifices to the corresponding portals on the east side and throw them into the portals, which led to the actual elemental planes in sacrifice to the elder elemental god. Now, keep in mind, there's also priests of Ayuz here who are helping everything along. So I determined that whenever the sacrifices came in, the priests of Ayuz would claim a share of the victims to sacrifice to that demon lord, and that was the price for his help in supporting the temple. And the ceremonies to Ayuz were performed in room 433, highlighted here on the illustration. And another reason why I made those portals in room 339 inactive is so that the characters could not step into them and jump ahead to these locations. I wanted them to do everything in sequence. Some other changes that were illustrated in the recent video I did was that to destroy those elemental portals, the characters had to throw them into the elemental gem into the corresponding portal. And here's just one of the screenshots that I used in a recent video to illustrate that. And then once all 4 of the elemental gems were destroyed, then these 4 so-called elemental keys appear on the main altar, which is pointed out on the map there. And possession of these elemental keys becomes very important much later in the campaign, and the module series as written has a mechanism that the characters could obtain them, but I decided to put them here instead, and so that the characters would feel like they had accomplished something by obtaining these items here. They don't, at this point, they don't know what it is or what they're for, but it's obvious that they're very important. So moving on the 4th level, way up there at the top in area 434 and 435, the so-called light chamber. I tossed most of the details found in that entry of the module because they center around Zuktmoy, who I've gotten rid of, and so the details are no longer relevant. And instead, the details are sketchy, lost in the distant past, but the column of light that is in this chamber is generated by a partial manifestation of the Elder Elemental God when he was worshipped here eons ago. And so, where did I get that idea from? Well, again, I got it from Gary Gygax himself. And this question and answer, which you can pause the video and read if you want to, is found in an edition of the Earth Journal, which, if you don't have it or are not aware of it, you can find at the Greyhawk Online website. So the column of light, what I decided was that Ayuz, the demon Ayuz, harnessed the Elder Elemental God's power to create the Orb of Golden Death, which you recall the characters are still carrying around at this point. And what I made the adventure to be is that the final task for the characters is that they have to destroy the Orb of Golden Death by throwing it into the light column from which it was created. And yeah, it's a lot like the Lord of the Rings and the Ring of Power being thrown into Mount Doom to destroy it. You know, same concept, but it works here. And this is a screenshot from when my players were in this encounter, and that's exactly what they did. They correctly concluded that they needed to throw the skull into the column of light, and that led to its destruction. And once that happened, the orb releases all the power that Ayuz had harnessed and incorporated into it, which he had used to help create the temple structure itself. And so, with the orb destroyed, the entire place begins to crumble and crack and collapse around the characters, and it's obvious they need to get out of here as quickly as possible. Now, as shown in the last video, what my characters did was, what my players did was they used a Halloween reward item, and again summarized here, to quickly escape this place and transport themselves back to the village of Hamlet. But I didn't know that the players were going to do that to get their characters out, so I had already decided that as long as they didn't delay, they would escape this place. They would escape the temple even if they had physically run all the way back to the surface. And this ending to the whole thing, I felt that bringing about the complete destruction of the temple gives the players a satisfying conclusion that I thought was missing from the module as written. And so that's where we left off in the last video. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. Feel free to leave a comment, share the video, and anything you can do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.
The greatest adventure is what lies ahead.